Hello, it's Ben with the DIY Homefront. Thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to be transplanting some bushes that are free. So why don't you stick around and we'll get into this. So I think you can get a size of it. We have several places in our yard where we have beds of pine straw and leaves. And this is one of them. And we've been taking plants from the front of our yard and planting them to the back of our yard for years now. And most of the time they just die. But we have been lucky enough to have two of them that have survived, at least in this bed. Normally we have, I think, 5. We have another one that was right here that died, of course, which made 3 along the back, and I want to say we had 2 or 3 on the front. There's another one that's dead. Just a little bit. But we will do this again. I like to dig the hole where the plant's going before I dig the plant up. That way, if it rains or something like that, I can get what I've got dug up back in the ground. And it looks like, depending on which direction you're at, it could rain today. So I'm going to go ahead and dig out these 2 holes. Maybe 3. I'll start by raking back the leaves and the pine straw, trying to figure out where the plants were before. One reason why is because these pine trees have roots that fan out pretty good. And when I dug the previous holes, I've already gotten rid of the roots that were in the way. So just to save me some time, I'd like to put all these plants back in the same holes that don't have any roots. And as far as that rain coming, my wife would prefer to move plants either after it rains or just before it rains. So that way the root systems stay wet, and that way it's not as hard on the plant to try to re-establish itself. I always dig the hole a little bit bigger than it needs to be. That way it's easier for the roots to grow. There you go. Can you see the clouds up there? Like I said, depending on which direction you look, it almost looks like it could rain. So I'm going to need the rake and the shovel to dig up my transplants. And from the sound of this, I'm going to need to charge up the battery on the lawnmower too. Alright, so I guess the lawnmower battery's dead. I'll have to put this on the charger. And while it's charging, I'll go rake up around the plants I'm going to dig up. Red goes to the positive terminal and black goes to the negative terminal. So we'll get this hooked up and go plug it in. I did an upgrade to my battery charger and put a much longer power cord on it. We are charging. Do you see all these purple plants right here? Those were some of the first ones we planted. And every year I dig up plants. And every year we plant them. And sometimes they take off and do good. And sometimes they don't. All of these plants were dug up and transplanted. And there's 2 more. One on each side of this pine tree. And let me show you where our next batch of little bushes are coming from. These are some of the original ones. And every year I dig up some. And I don't know if they grow or they come up from the roots. But there's this one. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 separate plants right here. I can work on digging them up, but I can't necessarily move them until I have the cart on the lawnmower or I get the bucket on the tractor. I'll use my shovel to go around the plant in a circular motion and put all my body weight on it when it goes in the ground to try to get through any tree roots. Pine trees love to have tree roots close to the surface. And try to make it the same size as those holes I've already dug behind the barn. I'll do the same thing to the rest of these plants up here, and then I'll go check on the lawnmower. Well, let's see if that short time on the battery charger was enough to get it started. Now I just need to use the shovel and carefully lift these plants out of the hole I dug and put them in the lawnmower cart. And we will take them to behind the barn and put them in the ground after we put some fertilizer in the hole. This bush may not have come out of the ground like I had hoped, but I will just replant it anyway. So this is our method for replanting these bushes. We'll check the hole to make sure it's big enough. We'll backfill if we need to and add some fertilizer or black cow. Then we'll put the plant in and put more dirt around it. The loose soil around the plant helps the roots be able to grow, but they don't like any pockets of air. So one of the things you want to do is sort of push the dirt in around the plant and compact it some to make sure there's no pockets of air. Ultimately, you want it the same height or maybe just a little bit below the grade of the rest of the ground. And that's so when it rains, the water pools around the plant instead of runs away from it, because it's going to want a lot of water when it's trying to reestablish its root system. We will put almost a whole water can of water on each of these plants when we get done. And that's probably the only drawback or complaint I have about replanting these bushes, is that for the next probably 2 weeks, we'll be watching these pretty close and probably watering them every day until the plant gets over the shock of being moved. We've had the best luck with these bushes than we probably had with any plant we've ever bought. It can be so disappointing when you've bought a plant at the store and gone through the trouble to plant it and watering it, and 6 months later it just kills over and dies. Besides the amount of money you spent, all the time you invest in it. But we started out with probably, I think, 10 of these plants, 5 along the front of our property and 5 along the side. And from those 10 plants, we have probably transplanted 35 bushes. And out of those 35 bushes, we probably have 25 of them that actually have grown. And it may not be the best success rate, but that's a lot of plants and that's a lot of money we have saved. Well, there you have it. These are our bushes that we transplanted. It's been about 3 or 4 days. And the best thing is none of the leaves are wilted, which is a really good sign, which means we might have gotten lucky and all of these will survive. But if not, that's okay too, because next year we'll have some more. Well, thanks for watching the DIY Homefront. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, check out those playlists, and I'll see you in that next video.